Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. In this video, God has guided me to talk about ego. Now, ego, it's a big issue in spiritual fighting and, in fact, in any type of spiritual elevation or existence for that matter. Ego is something that comes from the darkness. And in order to evolve spiritually, ego must be overcome. You must overcome that. It's gonna be used against you as a trigger by two different paths. Let's say, on one hand, from your human enemies, the ones who oppress you, the ones who persecute you, the one who aggress you, and so on. They will do this in so many ways. They will try to create for you the most humiliating situations, because this essentially can trigger you in many ways. One way would be the anger. One way would be the hurt. The ego, when it's being played by your enemies, can trigger a very wide variety of negative emotions in your energetic field. So this is very important to understand, because you're opening your energetic field a lot. Now, the problem is also that, as I said in other videos, the darkness has a logic of its own. So what this means, it means that, let's say a convent decides to send an attack upon you, and it sends a certain darkness in a certain way. We're not entering into details now. The point is, those entities are sent to feed on you, okay? Based on a certain judgment which they made on you. And that entity will not leave until it gets to feed on you. Which means, if that entity cannot succeed to feed on you based on whatever type of aggression was conceived during that attack, because God has shown to me, when they conjure these entities, they send them and they tell them what to do to you. You know, they request a certain things to be done to you, and also to feed on you. And they say, I task you to do this and to feed on this individual in this way, and will explain there how they feed on you. And in exchange for this, because I'm giving you a way to feed, I ask from you this and that and that. This is how they talk to the entities, you know. Anyhow, this madness. Anyhow, when they do this, that darkness comes to you, that entity, and you must understand that that darkness will not leave without feeding. So the darkness has a possibility actually to enter into your energetic field and to read your mind, and therefore can find out what is saddening for you, what is hurtful for you, can learn information about you. This is why they send monitoring spirits or hoovering spirits, to find out this kind of information, which they are not able to find out in a different way if you are a discreet person like I normally am. And so the darkness itself will use attacks on your ego. So if the darkness, say for example, thinks that finds out that you're very prideful of your looks, the darkness will do levitation on you. They are living beings. You must understand. Once a darkness is created, it's an energy without a body, and it exists just like you. Yeah, so you can actually, the ones who see spirits can speak to them. So you must understand this. So if that darkness entity understands that you're very prideful of your looks, that entity will do levitation on you, on your subconscious level, on that. And it will say, you are ugly, you are fat, you are this, you are that, you are... So the entity will find out what triggers your ego, what is hurtful to you, If money are important to you, please know that when you are under darkness attack, the darkness will do levitation on you, on your ego, telling you that you're too poor, you have no money to buy food, you have no this, you have no that, you have, or will create situations for you in which you cannot afford certain things which you deem as being basic. Why? In order to trigger your ego, to trigger negative emotions, because this is how they feed. That's an opening of your energetic field, and this is how they feed. You know, this is being done constantly, and you must understand that the darkness has a logic of its own, and this is how a darkness will survive generations and generations. So a generation of crazy bastards, convents members, create darkness, they die, and the darkness stays here and continues to feed on others, and so on. So this is really important to understand. The ego is, I'll give you one example. For example, I am very methodical in my work, in what I do. And I am perfectionist, and I have done a lot, big part of my career. I have done communication, public diplomacy was called, communication, PR basically. So I developed my own way of doing things, and I'm very thorough in what I do. I have been organizing huge events, bigger than national, on international level, and so on. So I have developed my own techniques, and of course, while you do this for a long time, then you have a certain standards that you uphold, So when God actually told me to all of the sudden, just write prophetic writing, publish it now, or after I started YouTube, just open the camera on the phone and start speaking. I was like, I'm not doing this. This is crazy. I need time. I need to reflect. I need to plan what to say. I need to do this. I need to do that. You see? So my ego was focusing me on the quality of what I'm providing as a product, my video, my prophetic writing, and sometime along the way, God has shown to me that is not what you need to focus on right now. What I need you is to speak then. And I will tell you even more. I was very upset after initially when I started the YouTube, and I argued with God, and I said, why you tell me while I'm speaking what to say? Because you suddenly start speaking to me about a totally different topic while I'm already registering a different topic which I'm addressing, and I cannot even focus to what I'm saying or to you. And I need to know all of this before, so I can prepare, so I will know what to say, so I will make notes, so I will, And one time God saw me that I was so upset on this matter. He doesn't answer usually when I get upset. Actually, he talked to me then. He said, don't be upset on this. This is an ego matter. What I needed for you at that point in time was to speak authentically on that topic. Because he showed me many people who, if you plan ahead of time like you are used to do, because you are used to be very perfectionist, very professional, very people tend to not to believe you. But sometimes I'm giving you suddenly topics in the middle of your speech, a totally different topic, only to show that you're authentic, because some people that listen to you can read energy, and they can understand that this is something authentic, honest, spoken on the spot, not planned ahead, and it's not an agenda which you have on that topic, So I gave you this example so you will understand that ego-driven actions really don't have a place in spiritual fighting. This is very important. And unless you succeed to master your ego, you will get a lot of attacks from darkness, and it will be very hard to overcome them. Some of them are tests for you to overcome your ego. some of the attacks, and you just must find a way to do it, to overcome that ego and to understand the true value of the spiritual fighting. So, for example, I'll give you an example. The point is, in me doing the prophetic writing or prophetic messages which I deliver on YouTube, it's not about me. And it shouldn't be about me looking good to somebody or delivering a very professional product. It's about God, it's His message. So you must take yourself out of the equation. And you take yourself out of the equation, you just deliver whatever God says, however He finds it fit to say it. Even if He would have told me before, surely on each and every video, I would have arranged the information totally different. I would have had much more input to give on each topic, because it doesn't come to my mind instantly when He gives me a word like this out of the blue and something, you know. But that is not the point of the spiritual fighting. The point of the spiritual fighting is not that you feel good about yourself and you pride yourself of being this good, having this good and beautiful and professional content. But it's about God, and He will decide the best way to deliver that and what topics who should deliver and so on. But it goes further than that. Again, what I really want to emphasize, and God actually showed me as I started speaking about this, is that attacks on ego can come both from humans but also from the darkness. This is, as you know, this is the oldest trick in the book. This is how Lucifer fell, how Lucifer became a fallen angel, all out of pride and out of ego. And from ego, many other negative traits derive, like competition, like jealousy, and so on and so forth, envy, and so on and so forth. So ego is really important. So you need to check on yourself and your reactions, because mostly in 3D, ego is a big thing. Most of us have bigger, more or less big ego. Yeah, it depends from individual to individual, but most people have big ego. And actually, as I was doing spiritual fighting and I was advancing and I started getting through my spiritual journey, and afterwards, when I already was very self-confident because I already did so much, so I already knew what I can get through and so on. I used to ask Jesus, did God expect that I will be able to do all of this? Did He know that I will do this? And sometimes Jesus would say, He didn't. He didn't expect you to go this far. He had certain agenda, but He didn't expect you to go this far with the fighting. And God and Jesus has shown me God working and adjusting His initial planning, because going this far with my spiritual fighting opened for Him opportunities to do a totally different strategy towards other people, for example, and totally different strategy including for me, and so on. And I asked once, I asked Jesus, why He didn't think that I will go this far? Why He thought that I wouldn't? And Jesus didn't answer, but God answered to me, and He said my biggest concern was related to the humiliation attacks which they carry on everyone, and I didn't think that you will accept that, to go through that and to defeat it. So at the end of the day, it was an ego matter. God didn't say ego, but He said, I know that there's all this smearing campaign, all this slandering, and all this defamation, and all of these lies and the concrete setups of humiliation which they create in your life day to day, following you everywhere, both humans but also the dark entities. I did not expect you to accept to put up with it. So I thought when this starts, when this will start, you will sort of find a different path. So I was very proud. I was very proud actually that I succeeded to overcome God's expectations and to go further with the spiritual fighting and with the bondage breaking and so on. But my point is, though, that this is very important topic in spiritual fighting. So I gave you this example. God said to me, this was my biggest concern in what regards you. That when they will start the campaign of humiliating you and putting out blatant lies and insulting storylines and narratives, untruthful and so on, I didn't think that you will continue to fight without budging and without considering to stop and to pull out of this. So if this was his biggest concern, that shows you that this is really important, and it really is part of everybody's life, and they will succeed in doing that in different ways against you. And believe me, I have seen them throughout years. They will be like wolves going round and round and round around you, trying to find a niche to create humiliation for you, to trigger your ego, to make you feel insulted, to harbor all of those hurt and pain and so on. So they will create that. And believe me, if they don't succeed, they will do programming during sleep time on you, that you should feel this way or this way. So ego and humiliation and all of these issues, which are actually going hand in hand, it's a core center of the concept of spiritual fighting on the side of the darkness. They focus on that a lot. Therefore, ego is extremely important. I was in shock this spring, the spring of this year, to see people. I'll give you one example, which truly shocked me and saddened me completely. There was an individual, doesn't matter, he fought against me, he did a lot of harm to me. It really doesn't matter details. The point is, there was a moment in time, I was ending a cycle and closing it, and I had, I don't know how to put this very simple and very to the point, so we don't enter into details. Basically, there was a moment in which I was calling judgment, and I had the power to make a decision. There was a circumstance in which for a week they tried to kill me, literally, in my life, in my house, physically, and at the end of the day, at the end of the week, I defeated the force which they were sending, right? So when I defeated the force, I took that gift from them, because they had a gift related to death. So that's a transfer of gifts, because I defeated it. Was a principality, and I defeated it. So I took that gift. So I had the power for a short time to make a decision. What will be next? Because you defeated the principality, then you decide what's going on. Basically, because I knew in that very moment, basically it was a death issue. I could decide for that individual to die in that very moment. And that would have unleashed all the dark forces of death, which they send upon me to attack them, basically. So because I knew this, so I was very conscious that everybody was very tense, including God, in watching me, what's my decision, what I'm saying in that very moment. What I said in that very moment was, I asked God, Father, from Holy Trinity, to make His will with everybody that was involved in this. I ask justice for me, of course, and judgment from God, and for God to decide what to be done with each. And of course, that saved the lives of everybody involved in this, right? But what I'm showing to you, what I want to show to you is that I said then, I asked God to do with the spirits of these individuals as He decides. So it will be God's decision, you know. And basically, God decided that this individual that I'm referring to save his spirit from darkness possession, right? And the individual refused. So normally, the normal decision should have been what was done, what he has done to be done onto him. So then he normally should have been died, and the spirit should have been trapped. And my thinking at that point was that it is God's decision, because this individual is from my lineage. If that spirit is trapped, the darkness will have so much power over my lineage and over everybody else. So I said, it is God, let God make his decision on this, how to deal with this, right? And God offered to him to save his spirit from entrapment. And the man refused. You know why he refused? I saw a crazy bastard who actually has done most of the programming on this individual and others who attack me, that kept whispering in his ear, you know, you accept such a thing from a woman? This is so humiliating. How would you accept how do you say this in English? God's charity, which comes to you because of a woman, namely because of me. You see? Do you see how crazy? And don't you say that individual refused salvation from God, offered by God himself. I didn't say save him. I said let God do his way, because I understood the deeper consequences of that spirit being trapped, you know. So I said let God do his way, decide on this, and make everything the way he wants. And I even said this, and afterwards, because I heard everything, and this individual kept saying to him, this is humiliating to you. You accept salvation as a charity from God, which comes to you because a woman, because of me, namely. And basically that individual refused salvation from God because of this. Do you understand how far ego can go? Do you understand? That individual is trapped now. His spirit is trapped in darkness, by darkness, because of this. Do you understand this? And I even said afterwards, I didn't offer anything to that individual. I empowered God's decision. And because I understood what are the consequences on everybody else if I decide one way, first of all. And second of all, because I wanted to give a gift to God. Because I knew how much this is important to God. Because God has told before that the soul of that individual was a soul from our lineage, which was lost eons of years ago. So it was trapped by darkness long time ago. So I knew that God wants to recover that soul from our lineage. This is why, and I actually said this out loud, this was my gift to God. Has nothing to do, I didn't offer anything to this jerk who destroyed my life, actually. I offered this to God. It was my gift to God that I could make that decision, but then I gave to God the power to decide without me asking anything. So do you understand how far this ego thing can go? So this is extremely important, that you, as you heal and as you do bondage breaking and so on, you keep in check and you heal your ego. And one way to heal it is always to understand the higher perspective over things. This is why research, depersonalization, and detaching and transmuting is really important in spiritual fighting, so you can actually understand how darkness can play on your ego and can influence a decision which you make, because many times the most important decisions in spiritual fighting, you only have a few seconds to make. Nobody gives you time to think. It's just a very short period of time that you have available to make a decision. Sometimes it's just 2 seconds, especially when you fight principalities or different forces, that you don't really have time. You have to just say it, you know. So I'm going to close now. Basically, what I say is that you need to focus on your ego. There are humans who will manipulate your ego, and there's darkness who's going to manipulate your ego. So working on your ego and understanding the causal relations in spiritual fighting, the consequences deriving from a decision, and so on and so forth, is extremely important, particularly so it will help you heal the ego issue and just focus on what is actually our strategic view and our strategic goal in spiritual fighting, right? Okay, I'm gonna stop here because it's already 26 minutes and I don't know how much memory I still have on this card. I thought it's gonna end much earlier, but this is important. I do not know for whom this is important. God has shown to me that many people have started fighting by now, and each is in different phase. But this is important for everyone. And as long as we are in 3D, there's so much attacks directed on the ego, and there's so much bondage created on everything that could trigger your ego, that I think this is a topic which you will never end addressing, namely healing your ego, and try to keep it in check. And even if you have an outburst of ego at one point, to just go back on it and check it and adjust and understand that you've been played, either by a dark force, an entity, a human, whatever. But just make sure that you correct that in your energetic field, because it's important not to build up negativity, and particularly on ego matters, okay? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. If you're interested to support my work, you're going to find in the description box below my PayPal account, and also information related to my Facebook page. And I encourage you to actually consult all the prophetic writings on my Facebook page.